Tataha Talnila Varnane Yogya Sadyasyad Adhamopiyayam. I wish the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by whose mercy even one who is fallen can describe the pastimes of the Lord. Here in this verse, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is actually describing himself, although the translation is in the third person. The pronoun ayam is used, which means this person. So he's speaking about himself, and Prabhupada mentions that in his purport. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Gaura Chandra Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Gadadhara Jaya Srinivas Jaya Mukunda Vasudeva Jaya Haridas Jaya Damodara Swarup Jaya Murari Gupta Aishava Chandrodaya Tame Kaila Lupta. He says that all these brilliant moons have together dissipated the darkness of this material world. All these wonderful forms of the Lord and devotees of the Lord. Then he goes on, Jaya Shri Chaitanya Chandra Bhakta Chandragan Shabara Prema Jyotsnayud Chvala Tribhuvan, which means all glories to the moons who are the devotees of the principal moon, Lord Gaurachandra, Chaitanya Chandra. Their bright moonshine illuminates the entire universe. So he is describing in this chapter, in summary, the pastimes of the Lord as he appeared. In the interest of saving time, I'll just move ahead to the 62nd couplet, in which he begins to describe how the Lord actually appeared. Lord Krishna, Brajendra Kumar, first caused countless devotees to appear, and at last he appeared himself. Before the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees of Navadvip used to gather in the house of Advaita Acharya. In these meetings of the Vaishnavas, Advaita Acharya used to recite Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, decrying the paths of philosophical speculation and fruitive activity, and establishing the super excellence of devotional service. In all the revealed scriptures of Vedic culture, devotional service to Lord Krishna is explained throughout. Therefore, devotees of Lord Krishna do not recognize the processes of philosophical speculation, mystic yoga, unnecessary austerity, and so-called religious rituals. They do not accept any process but devotional service. In the house of Advaita Acharya, all the Vaishnavas took pleasure in always talking of Krishna, always worshipping Krishna, and always chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu felt pained to see all the people without Krishna consciousness simply merging in material sense enjoyment. Seeing the condition of the world, he began to think seriously of how all these people could be delivered from the clutches of Maya. Just like sometimes we wonder, how is it possible that this world can go on with the unprecedented decadence that we witness every day, more and more and more? something to think about. Srila Advaita Acharya Prabhu thought, if Krishna himself appears to distribute the cult of devotional service, then only will liberation be possible for all people. With this consideration, Advaita Acharya Prabhu, promising to cause Lord Krishna to descend, began to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, with tulasi leaves and water of the Ganga. By loud cries, he invited Krishna to appear, and this repeated invitation attracted Lord Krishna to descend. Before the birth of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 8 daughters took birth, one after another from the womb of Shachi Mata, the wife of Jagannath Mishra. But just after their birth, they all died. Jagannath Mishra was very unhappy at the death of his children, one after another. Therefore, desiring a son, he worshipped the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. After this, Jagannath Mishra got a son of the name Vishwarupa, who was most powerful and highly qualified because he was an incarnation of Baladeva. There's a purport here, the Srila Prabhupada comments. Vishwarup was the elder brother of Gaurahari, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When arrangements were being made for his marriage, he took sannyas and left home. He took the sannyas name of Shankararanya. In 1431 Shakabda era, he disappeared in Pandharpur in the district of Sholapur. As an incarnation of Sankarshan, he was both the ingredient and immediate cause of the creation of this material world. He's non-different from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Amsha and Amshi, of the part and the whole, or the part and the whole are not different. He belongs to the quadruple manifestation of Chaturvyuha as an incarnation of Sankarshan. In the Gaura Chandrodaya, it's stated that Vishwarup, after his so-called demise, remained mixed within Sri Nityananda Prabhu. The expansion of Baladev, known as Sankarshan in the material world, is the ingredient and immediate cause of this material cosmic manifestation. The gigantic universal form is called the Vishwarup incarnation of Mahasankarshan. Thus, we do not find anything within this cosmic manifestation except the Lord himself. As a thread and cloth spreads both lengthwise and breadthwise, so everything we see within this cosmic manifestation is directly and indirectly existing in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is not very wonderful for him. That's a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 15, text number 35. Because Mahasankarshan is the ingredient and efficient cause of the cosmic manifestation, he is present in every detail of it. Lord Chaitanya therefore called him his elder brother. These two brothers are known as Krishna and Balaram in the spiritual world, but at the present moment they are Chaitanya and Nitai. Therefore, the conclusion is that Nityananda Prabhu is the original Sankarshana, Baladeva. The husband and wife, Jagannath Mishra and Shachimata, having gotten Vishwarup as their son, were very pleased within their minds. Because of their pleasure, they specifically began to serve the lotus feet of Govinda. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, there is a common saying in India that everyone goes to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead when he's in distress. But when a person is in an opulent position, he forgets God. In Bhagavad Gita 7:16, this is also confirmed. Chaturvidha bhajante mam janaha sukritanorjuna artho jignasur ardharti gnanicha bharatharashitha. If backed by pious activities in the past, 4 kinds of men, namely those who are distressed, those in need of money, those searching after knowledge, and those who are inquisitive, become interested in devotional service. The husband and wife, Jagannath Mishra and Shachi Mata, were very unhappy because their 8 daughters had passed away. Now, when they got Vishwarup as their son, certainly they became extremely happy. They knew that it was by the grace of the Lord that they were endowed with such happiness and opulence. Therefore, instead of forgetting the Lord, they become more and more adherent in rendering service to the lotus feet of Govinda. When a common man becomes opulent, he forgets God, but the more opulent a devotee becomes by the grace of the Lord, the more he becomes attached to the service of the Lord. This is a practical example of what we hear from Bhagavad Gita. Dukeshu anudvignamanaha, sukheshu vigata spriha. When we are sukhi, when we're in happiness, we become full of spriha. Spriha means desires. We begin to calculate. And when we're distressed, if we're pious, then we take shelter of God. And if we're impious, then we criticize God. Or usually we criticize his representatives instead, because they're more readily available. Anyway, we see the nice example set by Jagannath Mishra and Shachi Mata that even in their opulent state, they did not forget Krishna. And they very jubilantly worshipped him. So, he goes on. In the month of January, in the year 1406 of the Shaka era, Lord Krishna entered the bodies of both Jagannath Mishra and Shachi Devi. Jagannath Mishra said to Shachi Mata, "I see wonderful things. Your body is effulgent, and it appears as if the goddess of fortune were now staying personally in my home. Anywhere and everywhere I go, all people offer me respect. Even without my asking, they voluntarily give me riches, clothing, and paddy." Srila Prabhupada comments in his purport here that Jagannath Mishra was a Brahmana, therefore people would send him all bodily necessities, money, cloth, grain, and so on. While Lord Chaitanya was in the womb of Shachi Mata, Jagannath Mishra received all these necessities of life without asking for them. Because of the presence of the Lord and his family, everyone offered him due respect as a Brahmana. In other words, if a Brahmana or a Vaishnava sticks to his position as an eternal servant of the Lord and executes the will of the Lord, there is no question of scarcity for his personal maintenance or the needs of his family. Srila Prabhupada once said, maybe more than once he said, "The source of your paycheck is not the source of your maintenance." The source of your paycheck or the source of your finances is not the source of your maintenance. Shachi Mata told her husband, "I also see wonderfully brilliant human beings appearing in outer space as if offering prayers." Purport: Jagannath Mishra was honored by everyone on the earth and was supplied with all necessities. Similarly, Mother Shachi saw many demigods in outer space offering prayers to her because of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's presence in her womb. Jagannath Mishra then replied, "In a dream I saw the effulgent abode of the Lord enter my heart. From my heart it entered your heart. Therefore I therefore understand that a great personality will soon take birth." After this conversation, both husband and wife were very jubilant, and together they rendered service to the household Shalagram Shila. We just heard about the karma of the Lord. Because of that transcendental karma, therefore his janma is also special, not ordinary janma, as we're seeing here. In this way, the pregnancy approached its 13th month, but still there was no sign of the delivery of the child. Thus, Jagannath Mishra became greatly apprehensive. Tras, the word is used, fearful. Nilambara Chakravarti, the grandfather of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then did an astrological calculation and said that in that month, taking advantage of an auspicious moment, the child would take birth. Thus, in the year 1407 of the Shaka era, in the month of Phalguna, March-April, on the evening of the full moon, the desired auspicious moment appeared. According to the Jyotirveda, or Vedic astronomy, when the figure of the lion appears both in the zodiac and the time of birth, or lagna, this indicates a very high conjunction of planets, an area under the influence of Shadvarga and Ashtavarga, which are all auspicious moments. When the spotless moon of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became visible, what could be the need for a moon full of black marks on its body? We heard this from Dinabandhu Prabhu the other day. Sometimes they say there's a rabbit on the moon also. If you look and see, you can make out the form of a rabbit if you use some imagination. But at any rate, the full moon, even the full moon, is not free of some sort of blemish. Considering this, Rahu, the black planet, covered the full moon, and immediately vibrations of Krishna, Krishna, Hari inundated the three worlds. Purport. According to the Jyotirveda, the Rahu planet comes in front of the full moon, and thus a lunar eclipse takes place. It is customary in India that all the followers of the Vedic scriptures take bath in the Ganges, or the sea, as soon as there is a lunar or solar eclipse. All strict followers of Vedic religion stand up in the water throughout the whole period of the eclipse and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. At the time of the birth of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, such a lunar eclipse took place, and naturally all the people standing in the water were chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All people thus chanted the Hare Krishna Mahamantra during the lunar eclipse, and their minds were struck with wonder. When the whole world was thus chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, in the form of Gaura Hari, advented himself on the earth. Gauranga! The whole world was pleased. While the Hindus chanted the holy name of the Lord, the non-Hindus, especially the Mohammedans, jokingly imitated the words. While all the ladies vibrated the holy name of Hari on earth, in the heavenly planets, dancing and music were going on, for the demigods were very curious. In this atmosphere, all the 10 directions became jubilant, as did the waves of the rivers. Moreover, all beings, moving and non-moving, were overwhelmed with transcendental bliss. Now he changes the meter and goes into a very long song that describes this occurrence. He says, thus, by the causeless mercy of the full moon, Gaura Hari rose in the district of Nadia, which is compared to Udayagiri, where the sun first becomes visible. His rising in the sky dissipated the darkness of sinful life, and thus the three worlds became joyful and chanted the holy name of the Lord. At that time, Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu, in his own house at Shantipura, was dancing in a pleasing mood. Taking Haridas Thakur with him, he danced and loudly chanted Hare Krishna. But why they were dancing, no one could understand. Seeing the lunar eclipse and laughing, both Advaita Acharya and Haridas Thakur immediately went to the bank of the Ganges and bathed in the Ganges in great jubilation. Taking advantage of the occasion of the lunar eclipse, Advaita Acharya, by his own mental strength, distributed various types of charity to the Brahmanas. Srila Prabhupada points out in the purport that he was distributing charity because this is what the custom is. On the lunar eclipse, we take advantage of the inauspicious time to do something auspicious. So he was giving charity, and just as Vasudev did so at the time of Lord Krishna's appearance, Advaita Acharya did likewise at this time. When he saw that the whole world was jubilant, Haridas Thakur, in his mind astonished, directly and indirectly expressed himself to Advaita Acharya. Directly and indirectly. He said, "Your dancing and distributing charity are very much pleasing to me. I can understand that there is some special purpose in these actions." End quote. Acharya Ratna Chandrasekhar and Srivas Thakur were overwhelmed with joy. And immediately they went to the bank of the Ganges to take bath in the water of the Ganges. Their minds full of happiness, they chanted the Hare Krishna mantra and gave charity by mental strength. In this way, all the devotees, wherever they were situated, in every city and every country, danced, performed Sankirtan, and gave charity by mental strength on the plea of the lunar eclipse, their minds overwhelmed with joy. Why by mental strength? We keep hearing this. Manasa Bale. What does that mean? Why were they giving in charity by mental strength? Anyone have any answers? I don't see anything in the commentaries that's explaining this. So maybe I should keep quiet. All sorts of respectful Brahmana gentlemen and ladies carrying plates filled with various gifts came with their presentations. Seeing the newborn child, whose form resembled a natural glaring gold, all of them, with happiness, offered their blessings. Natural glaring gold. What color is the incarnation in the Kali Yuga? Generally? Who knows? What color is the incarnation in Kali Yuga? Yellow. Shukla pitas tatha krishnas. Idanim Krishna, like that. Shukla raktas tatha pitas. Idanim Krishna tam gataha. Baladev Vidyabhushan actually in his, he comments in his commentary on Laghu Bhagavatamrita. He says that actually in the Kali Yuga, sometimes the Lord comes in a yellow form, sometimes he comes in bluish form, and sometimes he comes in a parrot green form. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't come, then another incarnation comes in Kali Yuga and performs the same purpose of the Yuga Dharma, samstapana, and in different colors, in different yugas. This is why the Lord is sometimes called Triyugi, because generally also this is not a Vishnu Tattva form who comes in Kali Yuga, but rather a Shakti Avesha Avatara. At least that's what Baladev Vidyabhushan says. So, anyway, to continue. Dressing themselves as the wives of Brahmanas, all the celestial ladies, including the wives of Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Nrsimhadeva, King Indra, and Vishishta Rishi, and Rambha, a dancing girl of heaven, came there with varieties of gifts. Who is the wife of Lord Nrsimhadev? Lakshmi Devi. So ordinary people, Prabhupada writes, ordinary people saw them as neighborhood, respectable Brahmin ladies, but actually they were all celestial ladies dressed in that way. In outer space, all the demigods, including the inhabitants of Gandharvaloka, Siddhaloka, and Charanaloka, offered their prayers and danced with musical songs and the beating of drums. Similarly, in Navadvip city, all the professional dancers, musicians, and blessers gathered together, dancing in great jubilation. Prabhupada writes here, as there are professional singers, dancers, and reciters of prayers in the heavenly planets, so in India, still, there are professional dancers, givers of blessings, and singers, all of whom assemble together during householder ceremonies, especially marriages and birth ceremonies. These professional men earn their livelihood by taking charity on such occasions from the homes of the Hindus. Eunuchs also take advantage of such ceremonies to receive charity. That is their means of livelihood. Such men never become servants or engage themselves in agriculture or business occupations. They simply take charity from neighborhood friends to maintain themselves peacefully. The bhattas are a class of brahmanas who go to such ceremonies to offer blessings by composing poems with references to the Vedic scriptures. Of course, nowadays they all go to America after learning C++. No one could understand who was coming and who was going, who was dancing and who was singing. Nor could they understand each other's language. But in effect, all unhappiness and lamentation were immediately dissipated, and people became all jubilant. Thus Jagannath Mishra was also overwhelmed with joy. Chandrasekhara Acharya and Srivas Thakur both came to Jagannath Mishra and drew his attention in various ways. They performed the ritualistic ceremonies prescribed at the time of birth, according to religious principles. Jagannath Mishra also gave varieties of charity. This is Nitya Lila. Beyond karma, beyond gyan. Whatever riches Jagannath Mishra collected in the form of gifts and presentations, and whatever he had in his house, he distributed among the brahmanas, professional singers, dancers, bhattas, and the poor. He honored them all by giving them riches in charity. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also sings, he prays for this ability. Shakale Shamman Kurite Shakti Deho. Right? The ability to give respect to each according to his station, as it were. The wife of Srivas Thakur, whose name was Malini, accompanied by the wife of Chandrasekhar and other ladies, came there in great happiness to worship the baby with paraphernalia such as vermilion, turmeric, oil, fused rice, bananas, and coconuts. Purport: vermilion, kai, that is fused rice, bananas, coconuts, and turmeric mixed with oil are all auspicious gifts for such a ceremony. And as there is puffed rice, so there is another preparation of rice called kai, or fused rice, which along with bananas is taken as a very auspicious presentation. Also, turmeric mixed with oil and vermilion makes an auspicious ointment that is smeared over the body of a newly born baby, or a person who is going to marry. These are all auspicious activities in family affairs. We see that 500 years ago, at the birth of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all these ceremonies were performed rigidly. But at the present, such ritualistic performances hardly ever take place. Generally, a pregnant mother is sent to the hospital, and as soon as her child is born, he is washed with an antiseptic, and this concludes everything. One day, shortly after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born, Advaita Acharya's wife Sita Devi, who is worshipable by the whole world, taking permission of her husband, went to see that topmost child with all kinds of gifts and presentations. Prabhupada writes, it appears that Advaita Acharya had two different houses, one at Shantipura and one at Navadvip. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born, Advaita Acharya was residing not at his Navadvip house, but at his Shantipura house. She brought different kinds of golden ornaments, including bangles for the hand, armlets, necklaces, and anklets. 500 years ago, they had this opulence. Even Brahmanas had this opulence. Generally, Brahmanas are poor. It gets better. There were also tiger nails set in gold. Bagnak. Waist decorations of silk and lace, ornaments for the hands and legs, nicely printed silken saris as a child and a child's garment, also made of silk. Many other riches, including gold and silver coins, were presented to the child. Riding in a palanquin covered with cloth and accompanied by maidservants, Sita Thakurani came to the house of Jagannath Mishra, bringing with her many auspicious articles such as fresh grass, paddy, gorochana, turmeric, kumkuma, and sandalwood. All these presentations filled a large basket. Purport: the words Vastra Gupta Dola are very significant in this verse. Even 50 or 60 years ago in Calcutta, all respectable ladies would go to a neighboring place riding on a palanquin carried by 4 men. The palanquin was covered with soft cotton, and in that way there was no chance to see a respectable lady traveling in public. Ladies, especially those coming from respectable families, could not be seen by ordinary men. This system is still current in remote places. The Sanskrit word Asurya Pashya indicates that a respectable lady could not be seen even by the sun. It's interesting that Prabhupada says that this system is still current in remote places, because it's a strange phenomenon in the modern age that if you want to see more traditional elements of Indian culture or Vedic culture, you have to try to, you can really see it retained more by the lowest classes than by the upper classes. I was recently in Hyderabad, also known as Cyberabad, and there I was staying in a Singapore township, which is a company town, you might say, built by the Infosys people, or at least contiguous to their facility. And all the Indians, young, upwardly mobile professional Indians, they would go to Infosys during the day, dressed just like Americans or Chinese. And the only persons who really looked like Indians are the the servants who come to clean their houses while they're away. It's interesting. Anyway, Prabhupada writes here, in the Oriental culture, this system was very much prevalent and was strictly observed by respectable ladies, both Hindu and Muslim. We have actual experience in our childhood that our mother would not go next door to her house to observe an invitation by walking. She would go in either a carriage or a palanquin carried by 4 men. This custom was also strictly followed 500 years ago, and the wife of Advaita Acharya, being a very respectable lady, observed the customary rules current in that social environment. When Sita Thakurani came to the house of Shachi Devi, bringing with her many kinds of eatables, dresses, and other gifts, she was astonished to see the newly born child, for she appreciated that except for a difference in color, the child was directly Krishna of Gokula himself. Vrajendranandan Jai Shachi Shucha Hoilo Shei. Seeing the transcendental bodily effulgence of the child, each of his nicely constructed limbs full of auspicious signs and resembling a form of gold, Sita Thakurani was very much pleased, and because of her maternal affection, she felt as if her heart were melting. She blessed the newly born child by placing fresh grass and paddy on his head and saying, "May you be blessed with a long duration of life." But being afraid of ghosts and witches, she gave the child the name Nimai. Nimai. And Prabhupada comments here. Well, actually, he comments on a couple of words that are used here, so I'll read the purport. Dakini and Shankini are two companions of Lord Shiva and his wife, who are supposed to be extremely inauspicious, having been born of ghostly life. It is believed that such inauspicious living creatures cannot go near a neem tree. At least medically, it is accepted that the neem wood is extremely antiseptic, and formerly it was customary to have a neem tree in front of one's house. Therefore, because Lord Chaitanya was born beneath a neem tree, Sita Thakurani gave the Lord the name Nimai. Later in his youth, he was celebrated as Nimai Pandit, and in the neighboring villages he was called by that name, although his real name was Vishwambhara. On the day the mother and son took bath and left the maternity home, Sita Thakurani gave them all kinds of ornaments and garments, and then also honored Jagannath Mishra. Then Sita Thakurani, being honored by Mother Shachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra, was greatly happy within her mind, and thus she returned home. Purport: on the 5th day from the birth of a child, as also on the 9th day, the mother takes bath either in the Ganges or in a sacred place. This is called Nishkramana, or the ceremony of coming out of the maternity home. Nowadays, the maternity home is in a hospital, but formerly in every respectable house, one room was set aside as a maternity home where children would take birth. And on the 9th day after the birth of the child, the mother would come into the regular rooms in the ceremony called Nishkramana. Of the 10 purificatory processes, Nishkramana is one. Formerly, especially in Bengal, the higher castes observed 4 months after the birth of a child as quarantine. At the end of the 4th month, the mother first had to see the sunrise. Later, the higher castes, namely the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyavas, observed only 21 days as a quarantine, whereas the Shudras had to observe 30 days. For the sections of society known as Kartabhaja and Satima, the mother of the child was immediately purified after the quarantine by throwing of Harinota, small pieces of sweetmeat in Sankirtana. Shachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra, with the newly born child, were honored by Sita Thakurani. Similarly, while Sita Thakurani was returning home, she was also honored by Shachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra. That was the system in respectable families of Bengal. In this way, Mother Shachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra, having obtained a son who was the husband of the goddess of fortune, had all their desires fulfilled. Their house was always filled with riches and grains. As they saw the beloved body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu day after day, their pleasure increased. Purport: Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, everyone offered their respects to him. Even the denizens of heaven used to come in the dress of ordinary men to offer their respect to the Lord. His father and mother, Jagannath Mishra and Shachi Devi, seeing the honor of their transcendental son, also became very much pleased within their hearts. Jagannath Mishra was an ideal Vaishnava. He was peaceful, restrained in sense gratification, pure and controlled. Therefore, he had no desire to enjoy material opulence. Whatever money came because of the influence of his transcendental son, he gave it in charity to the Brahmanas for the satisfaction of Vishnu. That means that you can perform pious activity for the satisfaction of Vishnu. After calculating the birth moment of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nilambara Chakravarti privately said to Jagannath Mishra that he saw all the different symptoms of a great personality in both the body and birth moment of the child. Thus he understood that in the future this child would deliver all the three worlds. In this way, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of his causeless mercy, made his advent in the house of Shachi Devi. Lord Chaitanya is very merciful to anyone who hears this narration of his birth, and thus such a person attains the lotus feet of the Lord. Anyone who attains the human body but does not take to the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is baffled in his opportunity. Amrita Dhuni is a flowing river of the nectar of devotional service. If, after getting a human body, one drinks the water in a poison pit of material happiness instead of the water of such a river, it would be better for him not to have lived, but to have died long ago. Purport. In this connection, Srimad Prabodhananda Saraswati has composed the following verses in his Chaitanya Chandramrita. Quote, "This material world is without Krishna consciousness. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna consciousness personified." Just like the other day we were hearing. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya means Krishna consciousness. Sri Krishna actually means Radha Krishna, according to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and other acharyas who have explained in various places. The word Shri means Jaya Shri. She conquers. She is the form of Lakshmi who conquers Lakshmi herself, Srimati Radharani. So when we say Sri Krishna, it automatically includes Srimati Radharani, because Shri is Srimati Radharani. Therefore, if a very learned scholar or scientist does not understand Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is certainly he's wandering uselessly in this world. A person who does not take advantage of the nectar of devotional service overflowing during the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult is certainly the poorest of the poor, and it won't last forever in this Kali Yuga. The advent of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is just like an expanding ocean of nectar. One who does not collect the valuable jewels within this ocean is certainly the poorest of the poor. So many verses Prabhupada is quoting, but we have to end. Well, we have some time. Just one more verse. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, chapter 1, verse 4, it is stated, Nivritta tarsheru bhagiyamanat bhavaushadhat shrotra manobhiramat ka uttama shloka gunanuvadat puman virajeta vinapashughnat. Who but the animal killer or the killer of the soul will not care to hear glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Such glorification is enjoyed by persons liberated from the contamination of this material world. That verse has wonderful commentary by various acharyas, but we don't have time. Similarly, in the 3rd canto, chapter 23, verse 56, the Bhagavatam says, Natirtha pada sevaye jivan napin mrito hisaha. Although a person is apparently living, if he does not serve the lotus feet of great devotees, he is to be considered a dead body. Finally, Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Acharya Advaita Chandra Sarupa Rupa Raghunatha Das Yahan Sabara Shri Charan Shire Bande Nijadhan Janma Lila Kaila Krishna Das. He signs his name. Taking on my head as my own property the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Acharya Advaita Chandra, Sarup Damodara, Rupa Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami, I, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, have thus described the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, Swarup Damodar, Rup Goswami, Raghunath Das, and their followers are all accepted by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Anyone who follows in the footsteps of Kaviraj Goswami also accepts the lotus feet of the above-mentioned lords as his personal property. For a materialistic person, material wealth and opulence are only illusory. Actually, they are not possessions, but entanglements. Because by enjoying the material world, a conditioned soul becomes more and more entangled by incurring debts for his present enjoyment. Unfortunately, a conditioned soul considers property for which he is in debt to be his own. And he's very busy acquiring such property. But a devotee considers such property not real property, but simply an entanglement in the material world. And a temporary one at that. If Lord Krishna is very much pleased with a devotee, he takes away his material property, as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 88, text 8, where Lord Krishna says, Yasyaham anugrahnami harishye tadharam shanaihi. To show special favor to a devotee, I take away all his material property. Similarly, Narottam Das Thakur says, Dhana mora nityananda Radha Krishna Shri Charana Shei mora prana dhana. My real riches are Nityananda Prabhu and the lotus feet of Sri Radha Krishna. He further prays, O Lord, kindly give me this opulence. I do not want anything but your lotus feet as my property. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung in many places that his real property is the lotus feet of Radha Krishna. Unfortunately, we are interested in unreal property and are neglecting our real property. Adhane jatana kori dhana teyagino. Sometimes Smartas consider Raghunath Das Goswami as a Shudra, but Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami here especially mentions Sarup Rupa Raghunatha Dasa. Therefore, one who considers the lotus feet of Raghunath Das to be transcendental to all divisions of the caste system enjoys the riches of actual spiritual bliss. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 13th chapter, describing the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Gaur Purnima Mahotsava ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Gauranga! Hari Bol. Thank you very much, Panchagoda Prabhu. He wants to do kirtan, true to his nature. Okay. So we will do kirtan. Hare Krishna.